Now, one of the things that we have talked about with a couple other guests is the idea of being an NFL wife.
Okay.
I personally do not identify as a WAG.
Yeah, it's a tough word.
First of all, I'm retired, so I don't have to anymore.
You're retired.
But I've always found that there is
a derogatory
a certain degree
100%.
of like a negative connotation with 100%. The term WAG.
Yeah.
And the sad part is that I don't think that everyone intends it.
No.
But the vast majority is usually in some type of negative capacity. Mm-hmm. How has it been for you being in that role?
Yeah. You know what I've always found so interesting about that word is that like there's not a word that describes like a lawyer's wife or like, I don't know, any other type of profession. Where did that come from, right? And for me, I take such pride in what my husband does, and I love supporting him. It's my favorite thing in the world. But that's not the only person that I am. I'm my own individual. So I think it's definitely that word, like it makes me crawl out of my skin, truly. I think it always has. But I do feel like we are doing a great job recently of redefining that word.
Absolutely.
But it's just like there has been so much female empowerment around, whether that's the NFL, women in sports. So now I feel honored. I try to. As we're getting there.
To be clear, you are the perfect example of doing your part in redefining that term.
We have to, because by the way, how many amazing women have you met in the Eagles organization? Probably some of your best friends.
Countless
right?
women.
And why that word has a negative tone to it, it's like these women are the backbone of these athletes.
Yes.
And they are making everything else spin so that they can focus only on their career and being successful on the field. So they should be praised for that.
Right.
It shouldn't be anything negative. And they're holding down the fort, having babies during season, taking all that in itself is a full-time job.
Allowing life to continue
outside
while football is existing, because those are two very different situations, and football requires your undivided attention.
And
then
it really
life
is
needs to be
year-round,
handled
too.
on
Like
the other
off
side.
season is so short for them.
Yes.
And it's not like they just get to turn off. They have to train.
Just it. Off season, I think a lot of people don't realize that most of the guys are, Jason only used to take, I would say like 2 weeks off after season to just sort of decompress, let his body have a break. He would be right back on his lifting schedule.
100%.
And it was usually 4 days
brutal.
a week. Yeah. And it's, like a regular schedule.
Absolutely.
Where I think people are just like, oh, it's off season. You go on like bougie vacations and sit on your ass. No. It's like, no, we did that in the 2 weeks.
In the 2 weeks. Yeah, exactly. But honestly, I've met so many amazing women in the NFL. Some of my truly best friends for life, and the families that come together. Like the word WAG has been, now I love it. Now when people call me that, but I remember when I first met Kyle, I was like, oh, please don't call me that. I hate that word. Stop.
Yeah.
Yeah. But
it's almost the idea that like that term,
it also puts a ceiling on you almost. And I kind of found that when I first started this whole thing. It was almost like some people think that I have an advantage because of Kyle, but I really do feel like in the industry it's been a disadvantage for me.
I was going to say, I feel like you were probably
strongly
dismissed.
Actually, very much so.
Because it's like, oh, she's just trying to have a hobby.
100%. Or she's just crafty. I hate that word. Crafty. I'm like, this isn't 7th grade home ec.
She's doing DIY projects in her living room. It's fine.
Yeah, 100%. Yeah.
No, I think that you are doing an outstanding job of helping to redefine that term and make sure that it's more of a positive note.
100%.
Because so often I think the term WAG pigeonholes women into you are defined solely by your husband's career or your significant other's career. And
you can't have a life of your own outside of that.
Well, that's just it. I do think that there are some women, very sadly, who get sucked into that hole of thinking that they should be defined by their spouse or their significant other's
100%
role on the team, like how many years they've been there.
I think you get lost so easily in that. And that was what was hard for me when I moved out to California. I left I'm from New York. All my friends and family are from New York. I didn't know a single person out in California. I had to leave my job. So now I'm living in California, just moved out there. He has a full slate schedule. And I'm like, well, who am I?
Yeah.
What do I do?
I really do think like that it's becoming more and more clear that the women who are associated with players in the NFL specifically, because I can't speak for every other league, but the NFL specifically, I mean, even the Eagles alone, like we have women who are traveling nurses, like travel nurses. We have lawyers. We have
doctors,
women who are pursuing degrees to either be a doctor, to be a lawyer, to be a PA.
Yeah.
And it's so silly to me that just because you are with someone that you then get pigeonholed into like, oh, you're a WAG.
Yeah, and that defines you, and that's all you are. It's so archaic, but
it's ridiculous.
It's archaic because that's not the world we live in at all. But for some reason in the athletic world, that's how people view females in it. I also feel like it's a very team by team thing in the sense where some teams do such a good job at bringing women together, community based. And I think that is what's so important. We came to the 49ers 8 years ago, and it was a completely clean slate. They had just hired Kyle Shanahan and John Lynch. So I think it was like a really challenging year because there was not that like vet on the team. There was no leadership.
I always say like a flock without a shepherd. Like,
that was
it's just like a flock of sheep that are like mindlessly wandering, and you're all like, who's gonna do it? Anyone? Anyone gonna do it?
Not me.
Who's planning the holiday party? Anybody?
That's the worst.
But it's
so true.
It's crazy to be in those moments of like where you're just sort of like looking at each other. Nobody wants to step on toes. Nobody wants to be the person that sort of oversteps.
Yeah, 100%.
But at the same time, you're like, we can't just like pretend
you need a community to lift you up 100%.
Yes. And I think I agree with you. I've heard, we were lucky enough to, my husband was with the Eagles
his whole career.
Yes. And I am so fortunate for that because of the community that we had there.
Yeah.
But I've heard varying stories across the league of women's moving cities and having clear favorites just based on the vibe and the leadership and how they led the other women.
Yeah. When we first came out to the 49ers, I had never, and to be fair, I was in college when Kyle was with the Ravens, and they were a great organization to Kyle. I had never really like met anybody. And when we came to the 49ers, Kyle Shanahan throws a party when the 53-man roster at his house. Oh. And I was like, we're meeting the head coach? I've never met the head coach. Where I'm like, at his house? And that starts the year off on the best tone. It's like, it's with all coaches. Family. It's so family oriented. And he learned it from his dad. His dad did that, and it's just passed down to him. But it is the best thing ever. And it starts the year off on the right note.
Yes.
Because I have always found that the organizations that really put the families first are the most successful organizations. Because if you're not happy at home, if you're a player and you're coming home to a miserable wife.
Guys, happy wife.
Yeah, happy life.
This is not difficult.
League. Yeah. Happy team. But it's so true. Those are the most successful organizations.
Right.
I think we just solved something.
We did. Yeah. I mean, the Philadelphia Eagles are very much, and like the time that we've been there, and I think Jason can attest to it even before he and I were together, has been like very family focused.
Yeah, isn't it the best?
It's so refreshing because I think that they realize how much football, although it is their career and their job and they get to go to work and then come home, how much of it comes home with them.
Oh, 100%.
So addressing that is really, I think, important. And,
definitely.
Also how much time they're away, like to feel included to some degree makes you feel a little less like you're out on an island.
100%. So during COVID, it was so fun for me to like listen to Kyle's meetings and stuff.
Yeah.
It's another language, by the way.
Oh,
no idea what the heck they're talking about. They're like chair, zebra, cat.
I'll tell you what.
It's a different language.
Jason's O-line coach, Coach Stoutland, the whole Stoutland family, but getting to hear Stout and getting to listen into meetings, I was like, this is the best thing I've ever heard.
Wasn't it so much fun?
Oh, it's fascinating.
I loved it, but I couldn't understand a word they were saying.
No,
but I loved it.
No,
the play calls, it's like, what is this?
It was.
I told Kyle recently.
I didn't get much.
I love football and I know football really well, but of course there's a lot of things I don't know. And I was like, I want you to teach me how to play Madden so I can like learn the plays, because I'll see things, but like,
That's actually a great strategy to learn.
Right?
Yes.
As they line up, Claire knows so much. She's so, like, the way George lines up, she knows the play that he will play. And I can't see that. I know so much about that, but I'm like, I want to learn how to play Madden. So you're going to catch me next week with like a headset on, sunflower seeds and energy drink. I want you to be like, my Madden.
We'll see you. That's when you stay in the cave. That's when you stay in the cave.
That's when I'm crawling out of my cave.
Got it.
Kyle will never be more attracted to me in my life if I start playing Madden.
It's perfect. It really is a great strategy to learn.
I think so. He's like, that's how I learned as a kid.
That's awesome.
And then I'll know every player in the league.
Right? Then you'll be even
you
more.
Want to join?
Even better. Yeah, even better prepared to do more merch.
Yeah, exactly. With the PA, I'll know every single player.
Exactly.